Welcome back to the podcast. How are you? I'm so excited for today's episode because I was struck with a little bit of inspo and I had to sit down and record this on a day I don't normally record, but I'm here. I'm with you. I'm so excited for you to drop in with me today. Did you like the title of this episode? Why smart women stay stuck selling things no one wants. This hit me because before I wouldn't normally be so polarizing with a title, but this is something that is really not talked about enough. But before we jump into today's conversation, I want to do things a little bit differently. And I want to be transparent from the beginning of this episode. You guys know, if you've been following me for a while on social or recently with the podcast, applications for my House of Influence Mastermind are officially open. It's a 6-month room for women who are ready to play bigger around their visibility, leadership, and influence, not only in their work, but their lives too. As many of you know, I'm more of a holistic in life business coach and mentor. And normally I leave this kind of reminders or soft sell to the end of my episode. But honestly, if you're listening to the show regularly, you deserve to know what I'm building and what I have to offer from the jump, because a lot of conversations that we have here around visibility, leadership, confidence, building something meaningful, those are the exact things that we're going to be doing inside that room. And by room, I mean the 6 months that will be connected together. So now back to today's episode, and actually kind of where this came from was a little surprising. I've been playing around on Substack and I have wanted to start my own Substack, but I've started following a lot of great writers on there. If you need some good people to follow, I've got great names for you. But this was a quote actually from a guy named Mark Randolph. Maybe some of you know him as the co-founder of Netflix. His quote said, and I've got air quotes up, it says, "Stay married to the problem you're solving, not the solution you think will solve it. Your first idea is rarely your best idea." And the second I read that, I thought, this is exactly why smart women stay stuck selling things that maybe nobody wants. And it's not because you're not intelligent. It's not because you're not capable. And it's sure as fuck not because you're not working hard. I know this to be true because you probably more than likely fell in love with the solution and created the course, the program, the mastermind, the membership, the brand, whatever that looks like. The thing you decided it was going to be the business, instead of staying really anchored in the actual problem you solve for your people. And when you get that backwards, I truly feel like you can accidentally spend weeks, months, even years building something that really never takes off. I've watched it happen with a lot of people as they step into the online space or when they pivot. And it's a pattern I unfortunately see pretty consistently across the board, no matter what type of client I work with, which all of them have been smart, capable, successful, women who have had like massive careers that are pretty driven, if not super driven, willing to try hard things, definitely not afraid of that, right? They're willing to build something of their own, but they look around or they look online, because where else do we look? And they say, what are other successful people doing? And while I love that, we do want to mirror after people that we aspire to have a career or a life like, we accidentally start copying them, right? The format, that is, maybe not copying them per se of like what their messaging is, but we copy the format instead of understanding the problem. So maybe you launch a membership and it's not really what your people needed. It's not the format that was needed. Or you think you need a course because that's what you've seen other people have success with. Or you start a group coaching program, a mastermind, you name it. But it's not necessarily the best way to solve the problem that your people care about. And because it's what I see other people doing, I totally get it, because I've done it too. I've totally done it. And that's why I know a few of the things that I've done have basically flopped, or I guess you could say fail. But you look around and you think, okay, well, that person has a course, so maybe that's the route I should go, or that person runs a mastermind, or this person has a membership community. So you just kind of assume these are your only paths, or that you should do what everyone else is doing. And again, market research does speak volumes. And if something is working and they're in the similar niche as you, it's probably a good avenue to explore, but it's not necessarily always going to be the format that fits you best. Maybe you don't show up the same way. Maybe your energy is different than the person you're following. Even though you would like to be like them, you maybe are not like them. You guys know I talk a ton about human design. And so as a projector, we are different than the generators and the manifesting generators. Our energy is just different. But if you come back to the root and the core of the problem that you solve. It's usually how you've packaged it. And so this copycat trap that I see, it's held a lot of people back until they start putting some blinders on. And the truth is, I know that this doesn't just happen in business, right? Because you guys know I'm more of a holistic life and business coach. The life part of stuff gets in people's way too, just as much as some of the business formats do. And I see really smart women, educated women who I wouldn't say know better, but are seeking to be better, just copy trends because they're trending, whether it's like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I see it in wellness all the time, even when they know better. I see it in personal development. Everyone's cold plunging all of a sudden because it's the thing to do. Everyone's up at 5 a.m. or thinks they have to be, and they feel shame and guilt because they're not getting up at 5 a.m. Or they're like, I have to stop drinking because it's the trending cool thing to do. No one's drinking anymore. When maybe you have 2 glasses of wine a week. I don't know. Everyone's taking these green supplement. Everyone's taking all these vitamins. Everyone's on a GLP-1. And look, I get it. Some of that stuff might actually be great. And I do a lot of that. So I'm kind of like, shitting on my own stuff. But just because I do it doesn't mean that's what you need to do. I only do some of those things because they're necessary for me, my life, and my current situation. But if you're doing them because you feel like they're a fad, and you should, versus they're actually solving a real problem in your life, then you're not actually building a system that works for you. And in last week or the week before's episode, when I talked about structure, this kind of pertains to some of that. What you're doing is really just copying somebody else's lifestyle. And business works the exact same way. That's why I don't differentiate the two when I work with my clients. We have to address both because you can't really be successful in one without also paying attention to the other one. If you build a business based on what looks successful instead of what problem you're actually solving, I promise you're going to end up pulling your hair out, being so exhausted trying to force something to work that wasn't aligned for you and your audience and your ideal client in the first place. So, before podcasting, before coaching, before these masterminds and the things that you see me doing now, I spent over 2 decades, which is wild to think about, in the hair industry, in the beauty industry. You guys know that. That's my background. If you're new here, maybe you didn't know that. And when you work behind the chair long enough, you realize something really quickly. You're not actually selling the service that you're doing. It's not always about the cut or the color. It's the problem I'm solving. There is a real problem. And it looks like confidence sometimes. Sometimes it's an identity shift people are having or wanting. It's life transition problems. Women sit in my chair and they would say things like, I just want to feel like myself again. I'm starting a new job. I'm getting a divorce. I need to feel more confident walking into this next chapter of my life. So maybe I should cut bangs. Confidence was the actual solution that I was selling, which is so wild to think back to now. I kind of understood it later in my career, but early on I did not. I was like, they came in for a bob haircut. That's what we're doing today. Did I stop and think I wonder why she wants a bob today? I wonder why she thinks a bob is like the move when she's had long hair for 15 years. I learned real quickly not to cut bangs without asking some back questions if they've never asked me for a bang trim or bangs before. I also learned never to dye somebody from blonde to black if I hadn't done that before. I started asking better questions because it was actually the root to everything that I learned about human behavior in that industry. It's really amazing and wild to think about when I look back. So as confidence was the solution, that's why I was able to have that career for so long, because the services changed over time. The styles, of course, changed, right? And the industry for sure changed. But the problem I was solving, it never really changed. And it was simply that women wanted to feel good again, feel powerful, look good. And all that, started on the outside. And it's often something I talked about early on in my podcasting career. And when I was teaching more mindset focused programs was, if you have to start on the outside, fucking do it. If you got to show up and get dressed and put your hair and makeup on and put a cute outfit on to make your inner feel better, you best believe I'm a huge advocate for that. That's why I follow women who show up and get dressed, who put emphasis on looking good. And while that might be vain, and I actually played small in that arena for a really long time where I didn't dress up as much as I would like to. I didn't wear my favorite outfits to work because I didn't want to be overdressed. I wouldn't wear the heels when I was going somewhere because, well, I didn't want to be uncomfortable, but also I really wanted to wear them. But I was like, well, this is more of a casual event. I don't want to be all super dressed up. It's like, but no, I really did want to be dressed up. Why didn't I lead with that? It's because we're taught to play small. We're taught to not lead with that. So when these clients would come to me and want something different and bold, it was to be reminded of who they were, for one. And a lot of times it started with the hair, yes, or the makeup, or they would look at what outfits I was wearing. It was always such a cool thing when they were like, oh my God, I love your haircut. That's what I want. I remember when I finally chopped my hair off, and I tell you, every client for the first like 3-4 months of that season was like, they'd walk in and see me and be like, oh my God, that's what I want. I want your haircut. And what's funny is like, I didn't cut my own hair, you know? So like, why did they be like, oh, who cut your hair? I want to go to that person now. So all that to say, you know, we can fast forward several years later into my current life. And one of the biggest accelerators I can tell you has been being in rooms with other women who are building things. Masterminds, leadership rooms, whatever that looks like, communities of ambitious women. And I cannot tell you how many times I have left those rooms feeling like I've collapsed timelines. Because when you're alone in your head, every idea can either sound fucking brilliant or terrible. And if you let chat get into your world, it's going to tell you everything is really perfect and amazing, unless you train it, which I can send you that prompt if you want to know what prompt I gave mine. And now it talks to me like a fucking hardcore bitch. But when you're surrounded by smart people who actually understand business, you get honest feedback, you get perspective, you get reflection. And honestly, some of the biggest leaps in my life have happened because another woman looked at me after maybe getting to know me over lunch or hearing me intro myself or having someone else edify me. And they're like, Jess, why are you playing so small? Or you should be leading this. And I've often felt that in rooms where I was like, I should be leading something like this. I should be the one stepping up and producing this level of content or this level of, you know, facilitation. And there's been plenty of moments where I thought maybe I should just be a behind the scenes person. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, maybe I should be second in command. I am a 2 on the Enneagram, which is the supportive helper. And I am a projector. Maybe I should work under someone else. And time again, I cannot tell you the reflection that I get back when powerful women have reminded me, nope, you're supposed to be front and center on that stage. And sometimes we need that reflection. Not sometimes, all the time. There's no shame in understanding that we as women, from our prehistorical conditioning up until now, need that reflection. We do in all facets of our life. And it is not about the fact that you're outsourcing validation to somebody else, but sometimes we cannot see our own power as clearly as other people can. And that is such a fucking gift to be given when you're in these rooms. And that is why I truly believe masterminds work. Now, do I think they're for everybody? No. There are some of you badass women out there. One of my friends, Alex, she's kind of like this. They are not for her. She'll show up to them to speak at, but she is a lone wolf. She has had a clear vision for her business, and her business runs with her and these blinders, and she is a boss. She has East Coast vibes through and through. She is someone I deeply admire, and I know that there are those of you that exist. So this might not be for you, but there are so many more that are like me who love community, love being poured into, and also equally love bringing value into a room where our gifts can be exploited as well, where you can see that light in somebody else. And this is why I believe so deeply in the power of the right mastermind, and not because they're fucking trendy, because they've been around for years. I used to think masterminds were just for like, quote unquote, really, really high level, smart businessmen. And when I was in the beauty industry, I wish in my early career that I had something like this, because I would have diversified way sooner. I would have doubled down on what I love more versus grinding harder behind the chair. So it just goes back to that old saying that, you know, your environment does shape your decisions. So if you're surrounded by people who are playing small or who are not creating a bigger vision for their life and business, you're not going to desire those things, or your stuff isn't going to get expanded as well. And same goes to be true if you're surrounded by a bunch of yes people that tell you every idea you have is amazing. Every offer is so brilliant. Every concept is genius. You know, we don't need yes people in our life. You need to be surrounded by experienced women who understand the market. They'll challenge you, maybe even ask you better questions. That's the goal. And as a team, as a unit, as a community, we will help you refine the problem that you're solving. And when that problem becomes crystal clear, the solution becomes clear. It becomes obvious as fuck, which then your offer becomes obvious. Your messaging becomes obvious, and your positioning, how you show up when you pull out that phone and you start talking and marketing and doing all that becomes clean, transparent, authentic. But most people really try to figure all this out on their own. I was one of them. I'm raising my hand. I was one of them for the longest time in so many ways until I joined my first mastermind back in early 2018, which is why they stay stuck. And is why I stayed stuck at that like low 6-figure mark for 10 plus years in my business. It is wild to look back to think I hit that number so quickly in my beauty business when I was in my early 20s. And then I just sat there. I sat there because I was like, I made it. I'm making 100, 150 a year. This is industry standard. I'm top 1%. But 10 years later, I'm sorry, to live in San Diego, you're poor then. I mean, literally, quite literally. So when I read that quote this morning, it just felt like such a powerful reminder, to be honest. And that's why I had to sit down and record this episode, because I'm like, most successful entrepreneurs I know are not like loyal to their ideas. I'm definitely not. I literally said that in my coffee date this morning with Alex. I was like, I am not loyal to any of my ideas, which is why I love, being in community with people when they are in the ideation phase. Most people are loyal to the problem that they solve for the people because it's like a deep-rooted, connected why. You probably experienced something. You probably have a passion for something based on an experience you had, right? So the solution can evolve. It really can. And your packaging can evolve. Your branding can evolve along with your business models. And that's why it's great to try things, but the problem stays consistent. That's the one through line, is the problem that you solve. And when you know that problem, you can reinvent your business over and over again, like I have, which brings me back to the House of Influence Mastermind, right? Because that's really what we're going to be doing in that room, helping women get radically clear on a few things. What problem do you actually solve? And this could be like a second part of your business, an extra leg of your business. Maybe you've recognized in your current coaching container or business that you currently offer that there's an extra side that you could be offering. There's an extra problem you could be solving. There's a deeper level to the problem that you could charge more for. So this maybe might feel like a little business coaching today, but maybe you're someone who's been sitting on the sidelines waiting for someone to tell you this is the direction you need to move in. And that happens with a lot of my one-on-one clients is they want that accountability. They want to be told what the next right step is for their client, for their business, for their idea, whatever that looks like. And I think that's what visibility does for you, right? But you have to be clear on what type of visibility your current business deserves and what leadership role you're stepping into. All of that to say, like, this room is definitely not for beginners. This is a room for women who already have experience. You got intelligence behind you and you're ambitious, because you have to know already that you're ready to step into that bigger version. And the power of a room like that isn't just about the strategy, it's the environment. And when you put smart women together who are actively building, and that's where I come into play, because I am a lunatic about curating the right rooms now. I've hosted masterminds before where I wasn't as particular about who I let in the container. And that is one of the most important pieces, is who you put together. So deep down, I'm a master connector. It is my favorite thing to do. When you're in these rooms, the confidence that I see is the most expansive, beyond anything I can even articulate, to be honest with you. People's decisions just get really sharp, really clear. And again, timelines just like collapse. It's insane. So I'll leave you with this. If today's episode hits you a little bit like, you know what? I feel like she's talking to me. I've been building something that doesn't quite feel like it's maybe landing, or you've been trying to force an offer that just doesn't seem to be connecting with your people. Maybe the question isn't really about what should you sell. Maybe the question is, what problem am I actually here to solve? Because when you get that right, my friends, everything else becomes a lot easier. And if you want to be in the room with women who are actively figuring out that exact thing and building powerful businesses around it, applications for the House of Influence are open. There's a link in my bio you can grab on Instagram, or you can just scroll below in the show notes right here. And as always, I appreciate you so much. I think everything that I share with you is truly just from learned experiences, whether they are my own or my clients. I always like to weave in stories of what challenges I've seen my current clients go through and grow through. And that's why I know that this is the time for me to relaunch a mastermind this year, all around influence, all around visibility, all around the power and the decision to help you create that clarity so that the next season for you, the next chapter, is in that upward momentum swing alongside other people who are doing it at the same pace as you, at the same level as you. That is the key to building a table of humans that can support you as you rise. Because let's be honest, you are probably not surrounded by the people you need to get you to the next level. You're probably off in the distance looking at those tables that have already been built, hoping for an invitation. It's probably not coming, girlfriend. I will just tell you out of experience, those tables are full. It is time for you to create your own table. It is time for you to potentially pay for a ticket at one that is being built. And this is your personal invitation from me to you that if this is landing, let me know. Let's chat more. If you want to get on a call, we can always do that. Or if you feel like this is specifically for somebody in your world, I have a wonderful referral program that I have for this package as well. So hit me up. Let's chat. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. I'll see you on the next episode of the Jessica Burgio Show.